Hello. Hello, everybody. All right. Awesome. We are live. This is Inkarnate's first Twitch stream. Exciting. We're doing how to create printer-friendly maps. Super exciting. Just going to go ahead and wait to verify that our audio is good, and then we can probably get started. Exciting. Hello, King Clown. Welcome. Awesome. I'm super excited. First Twitch stream, everybody. Exciting. Hello. For everyone who is here, just so you know, you can go ahead and talk with Philip. He's going to be modding chat, so please ask him if you have any questions. Yes, audio is good. Thank you, Cheryl. We have liftoff. Awesome. Super excited. Again, today we're doing how to create printer-friendly maps. That means maps that you can print and they're not going to take up too much ink. So we're going to be showing you all how to pretty much optimize your maps to be friendly with whatever printer that you have, or if you want to use a plotter or a larger printer or go to a printing service, whichever. Let's go ahead and wait 60 more seconds, let people filter in, and then we're going to run and do some announcements and then jump right in, okay? Super exciting stuff. Everyone can see my screen. That's awesome. We're going to go over a couple of pre-made maps and then also the strategy on how to make them printer friendly, because there is actually some difficulty and some pre-planning when moving forward with how to make your map just completely black and white so that it will be printer friendly, because you don't want to use that much ink. All right, it's 10 a.m. PST. Let's jump in. First, announcements. For those of you who don't know, we have an incredible Discord community. Everyone is super nice there and super helpful. And if you have maps and you want to share them with people and you want some helpful, kind insight, constructive criticism, go join our Discord server. It's incredible. Everyone there is super nice mods, safe, great. Go check it out. For those who are going to be watching this later on YouTube, you can find the description of the Discord link in the description below, or here, for those, Philip will provide the Discord link in the chat. So you go join that. Also, don't forget to click in the roles channel, your Incarnator role, so that you can see all the various channels on the server. Okay, so again, roles, click Incarnator. That way, all the channels will be visible to you. And then just to be clarify, when this video will be recorded, the stream is recorded, and we're going to add it to YouTube, and it's going to be added tomorrow. And for those, when we do on Wednesday, we're going to add them on Thursday. So it's just the following day, 24 hours later, basically. It's going to be 10 a.m. PST. Okay, so go ahead and don't forget, check out our YouTube channel if you haven't. You're going to find clips, YouTube, time lapses, all those kind of things at the YouTube channel. Check that out. And don't forget to join Discord. So let's jump right in. So for some of you who like to play in person and you want to print it out and you want to play with people, well, you might not have a huge plotter and a ton of ink, and so you can't print out this large tabletop piece, and you might not have the money to create like a large table, you know, so that way you can have your digital maps right there on the table. And that's nice too. But printing is going to be your option. So you want to conserve as much ink as possible, especially if you're printing out battle maps often. You want to think about reusing them. So make multi-purpose ones. And I would generally say that you should think about making a map in black and white first before actually trying to take one of your maps that you've already made and then making it black and white. And I'll explain why that is. So let's just say that I have this map here. I'm going to open it, and it's made with the watercolor battle maps. And I can say right now that watercolor battle maps probably works a lot better than fantasy battle maps. And that's because watercolor battle maps are already fairly light. They're not super dark. I guess there's this gothic pack that's there, and that is kind of dark. So, you know, that might not be the best to use, but you might have to change settings on those stamps particularly. So here's what happens if I try to just go with straight up filters. I already have some on here, so I'm just going to get rid of the ones that we don't need. I'm just going to delete everything because we don't need any of these filters. Just to say you just want to take it as it is. So you have a map and you want to make it printer friendly. Like I said, watercolor battle maps is much better. We're going to add a filter. Now the first option that you'll see in HSBC is called black and white. And all that's going to do is just completely desaturate it. That removes it of all color. So it's all within grayscale. But the thing is that's still really dark, right? And so it's not enough just to make it black and white. You might have to make some additional changes. You might have to boost up the brightness so that you can kind of drown out more of those darker areas, because you want predominantly white. So that way it's not taking up too much ink. So one of the problems you run into is that there might be certain shadow settings that you're using that might be fairly dark. They might not go well. And there's still a lot of gray, especially in those trees. You notice the trees are very, very dark still, even when you raise the brightness. And if you raise the brightness up too much, you run the risk of bleaching out the piece, and you don't want to do that either. So the way that that's why I recommend pre-making your map first and changing some of the stamps with HSBC until we, actually develop a style that just has straight up black and white, just just right out of the gate. You just place it, boom, it's ready to go. Until we have that, this is kind of that workaround. So I don't want to drown out, so I might drop the brightness a little bit. I think about 180 was about right. This looks good. And then you might want to also consider making changes to stamps. So you can select one stamp and then everything within that set. And you can go to the advanced settings and you can boost up the brightness as well. So that way you're drowning out more of that gray. And it's getting closer and closer to printer friendly. So really, the definition of printer friendly in this use case is just trying to get it as white as possible without bleaching out the line work, because you really don't want that. Even here, there's still a lot. So you might want to boost up that brightness as much as possible. And if there's dark shadows, that's okay. That's where the concentration of ink, where those shadows are, but the shadows also give it depth. If not, you might have to individually change each shadow on each stamp, or just select them all within a set. So if this is printer friendly for you, that's great. If not, then we're going to have to go in and change some of these things. So I have to go in and select all within this set, and I want to basically bring the brightness up, making it more and more printer friendly. My suggestion, like I said before, sorry to repeat myself, but is to actually make the map in advance, because sometimes you might be working with textures that are so dark that you have no choice but to bleach them out. So it's best to actually think in advance when you're doing it. So when I'm actually making a map with black and white in mind, I'll actually desaturate my textures completely so they're just in grayscale, brighten them to where I want them. And that way the filter isn't going to drown them out too much. You have more control when you decide to actually take a texture that you want to use and then changing it in the advanced settings. Under filters, you can change the saturation so there's no color whatsoever, and then you can boost the brightness that way. That's my suggestion, is starting from the ground up with black and white already in mind. So I'll jump out of this and I'll show you some maps that were made already, and then I can show you how to take a map that was intended to be in black and white. So first, there's like these kind of maps, and if you want like just a tint of color in it, you can also do that. Let me open this up real quick and I'll quickly demonstrate how it was constructed. I hope this is useful information. If you have any questions, don't forget to ask Philip, or if you have any questions about trying your best to try to make even a fantasy battle map or another map, black and white, like regional, I can try to go over stuff like that with you, but that is really difficult. So in this map, right away, I didn't actually use too much black and white filter. I'll turn it off real quick so you can see it. Because I had already taken the stamps and tried to make them bright as possible. And then when I added that black and white HSBC, it just removed much of that yellow color. And then I added a parchment filter to give it some reddish color. So sometimes when you're making a map, you want it to be a little more stylized. So you want like an overall monochromatic color over on top of your black and white. You can use filters like parchment, red sky, winter, that will add like a bluish tint to it. A reddish tint is the red sky and parchment. You can use those to kind of create a monochromatic color that's not just black and white, but adds one other color on top of it to kind of give it an interesting feel to it. There's another one too that I made that also was more blue, if you want to see what that looks like. This Mage's Tower. Everything's just in black and white, and then I just added a winter filter on top of that. But I did desaturate and boost the brightness from almost every single stamp on here. So that's pretty much, it's going to be a little time consuming unless you started with watercolor battle maps. If you have a fantasy battle map, that will be difficult. Hey Dungeons and Honey, welcome. Okay, please ask any questions that you have. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open up the Red Mage's Dungeon, and I'm going to make this black and white, and I'm going to show you how to take a watercolor battle map that was sort of intended for it already by just using lighter colors, because that's really the trick. Don't use darker colors with watercolor battle maps that you want to transfer to black and white. They will not be as printer friendly. So you have to start with lighter colors already. So let's say I have this red sky, and I don't want to have it to be red sky. Instead, I want to have it black and white. Again, add a new filter, and it's under HSBC. Click it, and it's going to make everything gray already. Okay, I open it up, and you do want to boost that brightness. You might have to go up quite a bit just to make it printer friendly, and go up as far as you can. And so this light area, because this is the mass, this negative space takes up a larger percentage of it, and so that means this larger mass will be less ink because it's white. Using your background for whatever battle map you're using, or kind of a white, off-white texture that's fairly light, is preferable for using as your background. Even this is fairly too dark. I do think I have a texture on here that's called with overlay. This is old paper, and if I was to drop it down a little bit, you wouldn't have quite as much of those artifacts, and it will brighten up a little bit. So if it was without that texture, it would look like this. And that's pretty white right there. That right there is very printer friendly. You could add a white color, just in case you made your flooring a little too dark. You can take a white color, just drop it to a low opacity, and you can go over whatever layer this is on, like this, and just add a white over it. But make sure the opacity is really low, because whatever texture you have on the ground, you don't want to completely bleach it out to where it's completely white. You just want to add an extra bit of white over it to make it more printer friendly. That's all. Because you already have plain white as your background. And so you want to make sure that whatever texture you're using for the FG layer or your dungeon or whatever it might be inside of a building or whatever, just add a stroke of white at a low opacity over it. You'll still retain the texture that you used below, but you'll also have bleached it out a little bit more, not too much, but enough to make it lighter so it won't be too taxing on your printer. Now, one other thing that I also wanted to mention about printer-friendly maps was also the resolution size that you want to use. So we'll go over resolution. I probably should have mentioned this before, and so I apologize. Let me jump right over to our choices for editing resolution up here, and then your ratios. So your landscape and your portrait are actually going to be the two sizes or the two aspect ratios that are going to be primo for printing. Landscape is just portrait on its side at a 90, okay? So landscape and portrait will both work. So you want to use those. If you use a square or a custom aspect ratio, what will happen is that your printer may not be able to fit it all. Now, most printers have an option for you to resize your image to the page, okay? Now, if you already have it in landscape and portrait, then it will fit to the page quite well. But if you have a custom aspect ratio, when it does fit to the page, it might be so small and there might be a lot of negative white space. So you want to think about using the proper aspect ratio. Again, landscape and portrait are the 2 aspect ratios that you're probably going to use the most for printing, unless you own like a plotter and a roll of paper for custom sizes, custom printing. Your basic at-home printer is going to work best with landscape and portrait, okay? I hope that's helpful. And don't forget, your printer also has the option, or some of your computers will have the option, to rotate an image. So if you want to take your landscape saved image, you've exported it, it's in your downloads, and you just want to flip it so that it fits to the page, you can do that too. I think printers have that option, and a lot of default image opening programs will have that as well, just to flip it 90 degrees, so that way it will fit better as a portrait, your landscape as a portrait, onto the printer, what you're printing out. Okay, so basically I think A4 format is printer paper, 8 by 11, 8 by 12, I can't remember, I'm sorry. Oh, good, A4 format, yeah, exactly, perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that, Philip. Excellent, so that's gonna be that. So stick with the proper aspect ratios, and also remember, when you're starting out, I would totally recommend watercolor battle maps. Just work so much better. I can go over a fantasy battle map real quick and show you what trying to make it black and white looks like. And it's super difficult. You end up bleaching out, because remember, the fantasy battle map art just has so much more depth and darker tones and shadowing to it, because it's more detailed, right? But that more detail works at your disadvantage when it comes to printing. So if I go over this map, and I'm going to try to make it black and white, and already you're disadvantaged already. See that my background is black? That's going to make it immediately difficult. You'd have to repaint your background to be white. So already you're at a disadvantage. I'll go ahead and put black on white just to show you what the stamps look like with it. So let me just turn these filters off and quickly add a black and white one. And you'll see just how dark it is with just black and white by itself. So already super dark. So you have to already go into HSBC and try to boost up that brightness. Now, even at like 100%, you still have that background. I guess you could just paint this background white, and that would work. You'd obviously have to change your text to be black and everything, and you'd have to retexture the ground floor. I have funny words. I do come up with funny words, it's true. So you'll have to do a lot of editing with fantasy battle maps. Again, I recommend watercolor. They just kind of work better in general. But yeah, fantasy battle maps are absolutely doable. I think that's all I have, unless someone has any serious questions about how to kind of make them more printer friendly. Let me know if I missed out on anything. If you have any other information that you find useful, feel free to share that with our users, because we're always trying to help each other out. Let people ask some questions. There's only a minor delay. Not too bad. We'll try to end this soon too, because I don't want it to be too long. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. All right. Well, it doesn't look like there's any questions unless I missed the delay. Hey, Lily Rose. Good morning, afternoon, and evening. Welcome. Please let me know if there are any questions. Okay. Oh, do people ever print large maps? And if so, what places do you go for that? Actually, it's depending on where you live, but I've used, I think there's a couple copy shops that are, what was that? I came in super late, so I'm just absorbing some info and trying to figure out what it means. You can always go back to and just start from the beginning, replay. There's a lot of information that was given. It's okay to be late. As for printing, I mean, there are so many different print shops. The larger that you get, and if you have color, the more expensive it will be. I think Kinko's and a couple other ones will do it. Just again, the larger and the more color, it's going to be super duper expensive. So if you do go with a large print, I would go with black and white, but you can totally go with color. And just about any print shop will go. The prices are going to be about the same, really, unless you have some local print shop, you know, obscure print shop you don't know about, or you find one. I don't know what their prices will be, but for sure you can go to just about any print shop. But again, you're gonna want to probably use black and white, because color will be very, very expensive to print. It is not cheap. Yep, great advice, Philip. try your local printing store. Oh, big size printing. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I hope they offer that. That'd be a good, hopefully they offer discount for large sizes. And remember, we do exports up to like 8K. So that is huge. If you don't need it to be that massive, you can always go with like a 4K export. That works pretty good. Waterfall, go to map? Absolutely. I'll share this with you. This one was time-lapsed. I don't know. It has to be approved first, but this one is time-lapsed, and I'll be sure to add it to YouTube if it gets accepted by the team, and I'll add it. Yeah, I appreciate it. This one, I tried to make this one black and white too, just for fun, and it totally failed. And I kind of feel like kind of a map like this color works much better. Thank you, by the way. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. I hope it gets accepted. I'll be sure to add it to YouTube. If there's any other questions, let me know. Great. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate all that support. That's wonderful. And hey, if you have suggestions also for future streams, you should let us know. What thing are you struggling with? You know, do you struggle with understanding clipping masks? Do you struggle with trying to put shadows, natural shadows? Let us know what you struggle with, and I totally will compile this. We like to create a large pool of stream ideas, so we want your voice and your suggestion to be heard and documented. So if you have ideas, feel free to add them in the chat. For those in YouTube, we're going to be watching this later. Go ahead and add that in the comments below. We want to hear what suggestions that you have, because that's what these streams are all about, is to help you guys to improve, find quicker and better techniques, to find out what your weaknesses and what your strengths are. So please leave any suggestions that you have, and I'll make sure to document them. Oh yeah, creating mountain ranges with watercolor. Whoo, that will be tough. And I think I actually have a guide for that too on my. I always have a guide for this stuff. I think I do have a guide for that too. I'll check, but I also want to add that. In general, you might check in YouTube the how to create terrain watercolor battle maps and watercolor cities. I think I did them both. Mountains are difficult because the scale is super difficult, because you know the size of a mountain, even compared to a city, is it's just so massive. Mountains are huge, so that would be difficult as a scaling issue. But I think I did show how to make mountain terrain though, so check that. Let's see if there's any other questions on how to do things. Oh yeah, I think next week also we're releasing new art for Fantasy Regional. I'm not telling you what it is, but let me tell you, I know that it's way overdue. Fantasy Regional stuff is highly requested, so I'm super excited to announce that next week, and to make a map too as well with that new art. It's gonna be awesome. I know I'm such an evil tease, but I'm not supposed to tell you, okay? A mountain ridge or specific mountain terrain to sit a city on. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that sounds actually fun. Even so, there's a city on it, and then down below you could use the tilt shift and blur below to kind of give it that height kind of feeling. That would be super cool. I'd love that. Absolutely. I'll make sure to write that down in the idea pool. I love that. That's awesome. Sweet. Okay. No other questions? All right. Well, that was a very short stream. That's awesome. I was hoping it was going to be short and sweet. I hope I didn't miss anything. Thank you so much, Lily Rose. Thank you, King Clown, Pain for Glory, Philip, Dungeons and Honey. Every single one of you, thank you so much. Thank you for participating in the chat and for sharing your thoughts and your suggestions. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day. Also, I hope you had a great weekend, by the way. And I'll see you guys later. Take it easy.